Good evening once more, and thank you so much for finding time to join us for this program. Now, the health system in the country is not overwhelmed. This is according to Health CS Mutahi Kagwe, who says hospitals in the country are in a position to handle COVID-19 cases. Mutahi says while speaking at the Kenyatta University Teaching, Research and Referral Hospital, the CS says that Nairobi is already at a critical phase in the COVID-19 curve. At the same time, more than 75,000 contacts have been traced since COVID-19 was reported in the country. Here's our reporter Winnie Lubembe to kickstart this bulletin tonight.
That the country's hospitals are not well prepared to handle COVID-19 has been an ongoing debate for a while. Health CS Mutahi Kagwe was quick to criticize Kenyans for not appreciating local preparedness to tackle COVID-19 cases, saying,
"So you people very excited circulating a video around about how Ghana has got a 100-bed capacity, and you are so excited and saying how great Ghana is."
During the launch of infectious disease and intensive care units at Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, Kagwe said the facility has dedicated 60 beds to ICU and IDU with 440 isolation beds.
They are putting another 60 beds. That brings a total of 84 beds, 84 HDU and IDU beds in one institution.
At the same time, the oxygen plant that will supply oxygen to other facilities outside Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital has been installed. Giving the installation timelines, the hospital's board chair, Olive Mugenda, said,
"Today we have 30 that are ready, and the remaining 30 will be ready in 2 weeks. But also would like to add that out of the 24 beds that we have already for ICU, we have 15 with patients, so we still have a capacity of about 9 or 10 left. So as we do that, we will still keep adding the rest. In terms of the bed capacity for isolation, as the CS said, we had a capacity of 500, and we still have 200 of those beds left, so we still have a bit of capacity. And the rest of the 440 beds, we will be able to have them ready within a month.
This even as cases of COVID-19 have risen to 23,873 cases from 671 new cases recorded in the last 24 hours of Mutahi Kagwe's briefing.
376 cases in Nairobi are in Dagoretti North. And that's a big number for one area. Dagoretti North.
Nairobi, which accounts for 60% of COVID-19 cases, has recorded 376 cases, followed by Kiambu at 112 cases. 603 other people have been discharged, bringing the total recoveries to 9,930. Director for Health, Dr. Patrick Amoth, says the home-based care has proven effective as 5,666 recoveries are from the program.
Unfortunately, when people get infected, some people also get a very serious form of the disease, and of course the healthcare workers, as at yesterday 8 of them had passed on, and today you have reported another 2. That brings us to 10 healthcare workers.
Sadly, 3 people have succumbed, bringing the total fatalities to 391. Among them, 10 are health workers. Winnie Lubembe for Ebru TV.
48 members of the same family have tested positive for the coronavirus after one of them traveled up country from Nairobi. This coming even as the ministry says contact tracing has become technically difficult, with the virus now spreading through community transmission. Here's more.
With the virus now spreading through community transmission, there could be more positive COVID-19 cases than reported, given the Ministry of Health explanation towards the technicality of contact tracing.
Contact tracing is a science where first you need to identify the contact, either based on a positive COVID-19 test or a presumptive diagnosis of COVID-19 test. Then you list the contact in what we call the line list. And then you do follow-up, which can be active or passive. Passive meaning you simply communicate the risks of COVID-19 disease.
The explanation following several complaints from individuals who tested positive with their contacts yet to receive communication from the ministry.
The pandemic is in various phases in the country. Nairobi is reporting intense community transmission, and therefore that makes contact tracing technically very, very difficult. You don't give up on it altogether, but again, now you try to refocus and repurpose your resources so that you try to shield the very vulnerable and try to reduce the risk of mortality. So that is what we are doing.
And now 48 members from the same family are said to have contracted the disease after one of their family members traveled from Nairobi to Migori County.
In addition to that, I think we also had somebody who came from Nairobi, went to, I think, Siaya, with the mother to say hello to the mother, took the disease to the mother. He then brought the mother back to Nairobi to be treated. He died, unfortunately.
Last week, Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Macharia Kamau critiqued the government's handling of the disease with concerns that some of his close contacts were yet to be contacted by the ministry.
A county like Marsabit or Samburu, which reported its first cases just yesterday at 8, you can be able to do intense contact tracing and stamp out the transmission.
We have said it for a long time. We have told people that they will take the disease to their parents. We want them not to do it. Some have already. So the only thing we can do now is to urge those who have not, please don't do so.
Currently, the Ministry of Health has traced more than 75,000 contacts since the onset of the pandemic.
Hivyo ukiwa Migori, ukiwa Nyeri, ukiwa Marsabit, usije ukafikiria ati kwa sababu uko kwako nyumbani ati hiyo virusi hapana iko hapo. Iko hapo na wewe. Na usijihadhari, usipojihadhari basi utapata, utaumbukizwa na vile vile utaumbukiza wale wengine ambao ni rafiki zako na wako katika hiyo familia.
Diana Rachel Mbogwa, Ebru TV.
Now, with the country closer to its peak in regards to the surging pandemic, a health crisis looms with nurses threatening to down their tools beginning Monday, citing poor working conditions. Other payments include responsibility allowances and insurance covers, which the nurses say lead to serious demoralization.
Enough is enough. That is what the frontline workers have maintained even as the country nears its peak in terms of the spread of the deadly contagion. The Kenya National Union of Nurses Secretary General Seth Panyako said that both essential and frontline workers are facing serious delays in implementation of the presidential directive to pay risk allowances.
As you know, on Sunday we had a press conference in my office in Uchumi House, and we gave the government a notice that from Monday the 10th of August 2020, nurses of this country, together with other health workers and other public servants at the county government level, will begin salary parade from home if they will not have been paid their salary for the month of June. Some of them.
Panyako for the ones all health workers, especially in Western and Nyanza region, to be tested. The SG said these areas were supplied with substandard PPEs.
Having said that, that remained the position. I want also to report that Lamu County is on strike, not actually salary parade, is on strike because the working conditions in Lamu are horrible. There is nothing in Lamu known as COVID-19 preparedness, COVID-19 management. There is no PPEs in Lamu. There is no any training that has happened in Lamu County, and therefore we have 6 of the health workers who are tested positive.
Panyako says there are no isolation facilities in the country to cater for infected health workers, despite the government promises to do so. The County Workers Union Secretary General Robert Duba noted that so far workers are yet to receive their June and July salary.
If the budget for the county government has not been passed, the Senate should not get salary. They are getting salary for doing what? Let them get salary when the workers at the county government are also getting salary. And that should not be enough. We also want to tie the salary for the national government. Let the budget for the 2 levels of government be passed at once.
This comes even as counties are yet to receive their share of division of revenue due to the stalemate at this Senate. Abdelaziz Hashim, Ebru TV.
Still on that now, with all the 47 counties reporting COVID-19 cases, West Pokot County is grappling with the lack of capacity to test for COVID-19, as well as shortage of personal protective equipment or PPEs. This comes after the county recorded its first coronavirus case, and so far only a total of 163 tests have been done in the county. Area Governor John Lonyangapuo has raised concerns that all samples are sent to external labs, including Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret, thus delays in testing and relaying results.
The first COVID-19 case was reported in West Pokot County after a 39-year-old lady traveled into the county from Nairobi on the 26th July 2020. She was picked up by the county surveillance team after receiving notification from the community in Ortum, and all contacts traced samples turned negative.
Upon confirmation, the patient was transferred to COVID-19 treatment unit at our Kapenguria County Referral Hospital, where she remains stable and asymptomatic.
Now the governor is a worried man, as hospitals in the area do not have the capacity to rapidly test coronavirus cases due to severe shortage of COVID-19 testing kits.
The county currently lacks the capacity to test for COVID-19. And this is what we have been asking the president and the entire national government health team, that we must do these tests per county to make it easier to protect the people of Kenya, rather than having few far-flung isolated areas for testing. That West Pokot, you have to go all the way to Eldoret, 120 kilometers. What about from Lodwar? You must fly.
The governor said that the Department of Health has been aggressively involved in preparedness activities to manage the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, as well as build capacity for frontline health workers, with the initial target being at least 50% of the workforce. County Health Director for Medical Services, Dr. Norbert Abuya, said that the first COVID-19 patient at Kapenguria County Referral is stable and asymptomatic.
We will wait for the repeat test to be done. And I would like to also inform the public that before we release this patient eventually, we'll have to do 2 tests. And these 2 tests, done 24 hours apart, must both return negative for COVID-19 before the patient is released.
Health County Executive Member Jackson Yaralima urged the government to provide kits and swabs or ensure supply chains offer hospitals sufficient supply of test kits and PPEs, adding that there is hostility during tracing.
It is now becoming necessary that we need another center called Rescue Center, because the Wananchi are becoming so hostile to these particular people. My appeal as the CEC is that let's all follow the guidelines which are being issued by the Ministry of Health.
Sensitization of 250 health workers, mainly on surveillance and infection prevention and control for staff from rural health facilities and county and sub-county managers, has been done. Despite all these measures, misleading myths and theories remain an impeding hurdle towards prevention of spread of the contagion among the residents.
The theories people propagate around, especially in pastoral area, that we have done some prayer, we have even killed some goat, and we have read the signs and wonders of intestines, and they have spoken that that thing is not there. Those are talks. Let's be serious.
Winnie Lubembe for Ebru TV.
Now, despite the current economic turmoil Kenyans are facing, you and I, the taxpayer, are likely to dig deeper into our pockets to finance an expensive pension windfall for MPs who served between 1984 and 2001. If approved, the quest to keep MPs happy even in retirement could see the already struggling taxpayer cough up to at least 4 billion Kenya shillings.
At a time when the country is in the heart of an economic downturn due to the coronavirus pandemic, which has left the Kenyan taxpayer struggling to make ends meet, you and I are now expected to dig deeper into our pockets to finance an expensive pension windfall for MPs who served between 1984 and 2001.
Some of them earn as low as 6,000 shillings per month, and that is why we have brought this to correct that, so that at least they get 100,000 per month.
The National Assembly has passed the Retirement Benefits Law to award the ex-MPs a gratuity and a monthly pension of over 100,000 shillings each for life.
If you meet them, actually, this amount that we are increasing is basically to take care not of any luxury, but of the very, very basic needs, Mr. Speaker.
Some of them come to Parliament here. When you look at them, Mr. Speaker, you will have mercy on them, Mr. Speaker. If you look at their shoes, Mr. Speaker, you will be shocked. You can't look at them, Mr. Speaker.
This means that each of the over 300 former MPs earning a minimum monthly payout of 125,000 will cost the taxpayers nearly 47 million shillings per month, which translates to over $500 million shillings per year.
The country will incur 144 million in the first year. 144 million. Mr. Speaker, I don't think that is too much pressure on our budget.
On top of the already unsustainable public wage bill.
Taking into account the situation of the economy now, this bill will cause serious strain to the exchequer.
And at a time when the country badly needs every coin it can lay its hands on, the money could be used to alleviate the challenges brought by the pandemic, like building an extra 2,000 classrooms, employ close to 6,000 doctors at a salary of 100,000 shillings every month, build and equip 63 ICU facilities, or even build 4 state-of-the-art hospitals.
These are people, Mr. Speaker, you know, one time you'll be also a former member of Parliament, and you will even miss money to buy medicine, Mr. Speaker.
The move already eliciting debate that it could start a wave that would not be contained.
That this is going to incite all the other sectors within the civil service. Because currently, we are increasing for the members of Parliament. What will stop a permanent secretary? What will stop another civil servant say, yeah, fine, even me, my amount must be, my pension must be increased.
The bill will be forwarded to President Uhuru Kenyatta for assent into law, committing the already beaten Kenyan taxpayer to keeping the Mheshimiwa happy, even in retirement.
Chairman, I wanted to contribute for the last motion here, CDF.
An interesting discussion right there. Now, the last 4 months have been challenging for private schools as they have been starved of their main source of income, a situation that has seen at least 126 schools shut down. Whistling Thorn in Kawangware area in Nairobi County is among the schools that have shut down. And as Milia Kisienya reports, the school has turned its classes to residential premises. Have a look.
5 months down the line and 4 more to go is the count met by many private schools across the country. A dark cloud of how they will generate revenue, giving them sleepless nights. Some already opting for available alternatives. A spot check of the status of most private schools in the country leads us to Kawangware area in Nairobi County, the area known to have at least 3 public primary schools against the several private schools that are now suffering from the brunt of the zero revenue. Our spot check leads us at Whistling Thorn Primary School, the 2-story building undergoing renovation to transform it to a residential area, a part of it already occupied by tenants. The owner of the premises pushed by the burden of incurring loan interest to shift focus outside the classroom.
I have loan from Housing Finance, I have loan from Kenya Commercial Bank, and it was very, very difficult for me.
Violet Waweru, who opted to talk to us via a phone call, owns 2 schools within Kawangware area, noting that lack of revenue from the school and the stringent measures from the Ministry of Health became unbearable for her.
You see, we are over 58 years. Mzee was running the one in Namanga, me I was running the one in Kawangware, and therefore even if it opens, we cannot go to school and we cannot entrust it to somebody else.
Following the closure of the schools, several teachers stared at losing their jobs. But for one Nasir Kirui, he was lucky to be spared.
Wakati shule ilifungwa, nilikuwa nafunza. Na saizi ninafanya tu kazi hapa ndani kwa ploti.
ya kuweza kukimu maisha yangu.
Despite the little he gets, Nasir holds on to each day at a time.
Tulikuwa tunalipwa vizuri, lakini venye COVID ilianza ikawa malipo imesimama na hustle sana. Hiyo ndio changamoto kubwa, kwa sababu sasa pesa yenye napata ni kidogo sana.
At least 126 schools have shut down, according to the Kenya Private School Association body, with over 43,000 learners now being on the plot of being shifted to public schools come next year. And in addition, another 153,000 teachers and 133,000 staffers being rendered jobless. Peter Ndoro, CEO, Kenya Private School Association, and other education stakeholders have now warned of a possible crisis in the education sector come 2021 if the government doesn't swing to action and serve the private schools.
Public schools expect that they will not be receiving more learners. But then we have 43,000 learners who have been displaced from the private sector because their schools have decided to shut. Where are these learners going to go? Who is going to plan for them? We in the private sector may not be able to plan for them because we do not know whether they will come to us or will go to the public sector. This is a crisis that we must address at this point in time.
What the government is doing is that it's not totally carrying the burden of free and compulsory education, but it's actually giving that burden to the private sector without saying they are doing that. Virtually, the entire education, basic education in Nairobi is being managed by the private sector. The public schools in Nairobi are very few, and the government is willing to give a deaf ear and eye to that.
Every sector, the government has supported tourism sector. The government is supporting other small and medium enterprises. Why not education?
As parents struggle with the pressure of staying at home with their children, a second headache of seeking alternative schools for their children is seemingly arising.
I think that is something which could have been done instead of being given a chance to close down, because some other private school students will be automatically, as if they are being given a death sentence, school close. Because hata kama wamefunga, wale walikuwa kwa private schools ili waje warudi tena wapate public schools, it won't be possible.
But I'm not pleased with the way that the private schools are going to close. Because if at all it happens, and they will be going to the public schools next year. Okay, first of all, teachers are going to be overloaded with the work, and I hope, as I know, there will be low performance. So they would rather remain than close.
And for some, bearing the pain of loss of school fees they had paid for in the 2020 school calendar being another burden.
Wengine tunalipua hizo pesa kukopa kwa mikopo ya cooperative ya kusomesha shule. Na sisi saizi sako asijui kama tuna hiyo shida, sisi tunalipa hiyo pesa hata kama tuna shida ya changa hii ugonjwa ya corona.
With the uncertainty of when the COVID-19 pandemic will end, private schools continue to stagger in the puzzle of generating revenue amidst the closure of schools, with some like this school seeking for an alternative. However, worst is how prepared are the public schools come next year. Milia Kisenya for Ebru TV.
Well, thank you, Milia Kisenya, for that. Now, the Council of Governors has urged National Treasury to release 29 billion shillings balance for the 2019-2020 financial year to cushion counties during the current cash crisis occasioned by the third basis formula on revenue allocation. And according to the Council Chair Wycliffe Oparanya, who doubles up as the Kakamega Governor, counties are unable to run due to the prolonged standoff over division of revenue. Our political affairs reporter Jeff Khaemba attended the event and filed the following report.
As the senators wait for dialogue to unpack the third basis formula on the revenue allocation on Tuesday next week, counties are facing closure due to inadequate resources to run on. The Council of Governors Chairman Wycliffe Oparanya in a media briefing threatened that it will be impossible to operate the counties should the current revenue standoff persist.
How do you say that there's no crisis in counties when money has not been released for 2 months, when people, employees of counties, have not been paid for 2 months, and you stand up to say that there is no crisis. It is also unfortunate that the nurses union is now saying they call a strike, and they know the problem we are in. So how will the strike sort out the problem at the Senate? Do they want to go to the Senate and stand there and tell the senators that do your work?
On Monday, Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani announced that it will release 29 billion Kenyan shillings to counties in due course to cushion the counties in the wake of the current challenges in the counties. With Oparanya saying the 29 billion Kenyan shillings, which is the balance for the financial year 2019 and 2020, is just a drop in the ocean.
The fact that we have not paid salaries for 2 months, obviously that money will just go towards paying salaries for 2 months. Disbursement for 1 month, paying salaries for 2 months.
Currently, the senators are embroiled in a bitter battle over the third generation of formula on revenue allocation after failing to agree 7 times, a battle that has not augured well with the governors.
The Senate should now pass the CARA as is, using the old formula, as they struggle to approve the new formula.
Senators are expected to hold a dialogue forum before coming back to the House on Tuesday next week to unlock the deadlock, with each protecting their own interests.
I think that there are better ways of dealing with the situation. First and foremost, we should be focused as a nation on how to create new revenue streams, not to fight over the small revenues that we are getting. So we are getting it wrong as a country.
Kwa hivyo hata kama wao ni wachache, hata kama wao ni 500, hata kama wao ni 1,100 ama 1,050, lazima wakuwe na barabara mzuri kama ya Wakenya, lazima wakuwe na hospitali mzuri kama Wakenya wengine.
The bone of contention over the impasse is about some counties with comparatively a small population than the others losing billions of money in the third generation formula, as opposed to counties with higher population. The fate of the third basis formula for the revenue allocation to counties still lies in the hands of the 47 senators who shall be reconvening by Tuesday, at least to adopt or reject the report. This will come after holding a dialogue meeting whose fate is still unknown. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Jeff Haimba.
That report by Jeff Haimba brings us to a very fast short break. When you come back, we have the latest on the Kenyan journalist based in Ethiopia, Yasin Juma. Keep it here. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Vihiga County Governor Wilbur Otichilo has urged the senators to consider the Commission of Revenue Allocation formula. The governor maintains that the current stalemate between the senators has not made it easier for counties to access the resources required, especially now when all 47 counties have recorded cases of COVID-19.
Hatuwezi kukandamiza kaunti zingine kwa vile kwa wakati huu hawana watu. Kwa vile hizo sehemu ambao tunasema saa hii hawana watu, hizo ndizo sehemu zitatumika kwa miaka ijao kwa maendeleo ya Kenya, na hata sisi ambao tuko kwa sehemu ambao watu wamejaa, baadaye tutaenda kwa hizo sehemu. Kwa hivyo ni sehemu za muhimu na ni sehemu ambazo zinatakikana sipatiwe maendeleo tukijipanga kwa miaka ijayo. Kwa hivyo ningesema kwamba waangalie ile formula ilitolewa na Commission of Revenue Allocation. Hiyo formula inaangazia parameters tofauti ambao ni formula ambao ni modernized ama imekuwa improved. Lakini CRA walisema kwamba wanajua kwamba ukitumia hiyo formula kaunti zingine zitapoteza pesa yao. Na walipendekeza kwamba tukipitisha hii formula kwa assembly, kwa Senate, lazima Treasury iweke pesa kando. Wakati huo nafikiri walisema 47 billion ambayo itatumiwa kucompensate ama kupatia zile county ambazo zilipoteza. So ningependekeza kwamba waangalie hilo pendekezo la CRA, waone kama inaweza kuwa implemented ama la.
Kimilili Member of Parliament Didmas Baraza has accused the state of harassment and intimidation over his firm stand to support Deputy President William Ruto's 2022 presidential bid. The MP, who was arraigned before Kajiado Law Courts on Tuesday and charged of a fraudulent sale of a vehicle, slammed the government for what he says was failing to adhere to the rule of law and has instead focused on frustrating ambitions of some leaders. The MP says the Jubilee government should blame its current woes to the handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition chief Raila Odinga.
They are not sleeping, doing meetings on how they are going to take us to court on purported offenses that were done 2009, 2008, when even some of us were not even near being elected members of parliament. Polisi yeyote haruhusiwi kunikamata. Kama ako na maneno na mimi, tukutane kotini. Ndio maana mimi nilitembea, tukaenda tukakutana nao kotini, na nikafikiria kwamba wako na maneno mengine kubwa ambayo wanaweza niambia ati sijui nimefanya, ati wananiambia ati mimi niliuza gari ambayo nilikuwa nimechukua nayo loan. Makosa iko wapi? Gari ni yangu, logbook ni yangu. Kama nimeuzia mtu hiyo gari na nimemwambia hii gari nilikuwa nimechukulia loan na balance ni 1187, kwa hivyo wewe ile pesa ambayo unanilipa weka kwa account yangu 1450 na ile ambayo ya juu 1200 ende ulipe kwa bank, alafu patiwe logbook yako, ati hiyo ni makosa. Na tuko na agreement.
Now, an Ethiopian court has ordered the release of Kenyan journalist Yasin Juma. This after police in that country failed to present evidence to prove Yasin, together with others, committed a crime. According to their defense team, Juma was arrested late last month following protests over the assassination of popular singer Hachalu Hundessa, which led to more than 80 deaths, and he was facing charges including incitement and involvement in violence. It is said that Kenya's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been working behind the scenes to secure his release. Now, the Free Kenya Popular Initiative has kicked off signature collection from Kenyans in a bid to change the current constitution for the benefit of a common mwananchi. The outfit, led by its chair Bob Njagi, says it intends to collect and collate views from Kenyans countrywide and in the diaspora. Free Kenya is a national constitutional platform built around the realization that the responsibility for the foundational contract is limiting the potential and aspirations of the peoples of Kenya.
Kwa hivyo, we are mobilizing 2 million Kenyans to sign our petition, and we have a website which we are collecting online signatures. That is www.freekenya.or.ke. Once you have read through the referendum, you can sign the referendum online. And also, we are appealing to all Kenyans to help us raise the much needed resources that we need so that we can push this agenda forward. Kwa hivyo leo tumesema tuje mbele ya Wakenya na tuwajulishe kwamba kuna referendum ambayo tuko nayo sisi kama Wakenya, ambayo tungependa Wakenya wote waje waungane na sisi.
Tukienda mbele, Free Kenya tunasema ya kwamba tunataka ile ambayo sio political. This is a constitutional thing. It's not a political thing. Na ndio tulienda kotini tukaitisha ya kwamba tupewe nafasi tufanye kitu ya kikatiba.
Sisi kama walemavu tunataka referendum ya mwananchi yenye itatupeleka tuweze kuwa na 47 elected person living with disability.
And the reason why we came up with the Free Kenya movement is because we have looked at everything that is being done by politicians, and we saw that their interest is on their stomach, concerning their relatives, concerning their cronies.
Now, residents of Kangari area, Murang'a County, are protesting over what they term as discrimination when contracting construction workers of the ongoing 500 kilometers Mau Mau roadworks from Nyeri leading to Limuru. The residents lament that it is not fair for the contractor, who is not from the area, to bring his own people for the manual jobs, while there are so many unemployed youth in the area.
Residents of Kangari area, Murang'a County, are up in arms over the manner in which the contractor in charge of the construction of the ongoing Mau Mau roadworks in what they term as discriminative and selective hiring while contracting the manual jobs.
Tungetaka contractor mwenye atapewa aconsider vijana wetu. Tuna vijana wengi sana hapa ambao wangefanya kazi, lakini hatuwezi kubali mtu anapewa contract analeta watu kutoka Kisii, Mombasa, baribari. Na tuna watoto wetu hapa, akuje aandike watoto wetu pia wapate kazi.
Tunaambiwa ni wezi, tutaanza kuiba. Wakikuyu si ati Wakenya wote Wakikuyu ni wezi. Na hiyo ndio shida kubwa ambayo tunaweza omba viongozi wetu watutatulie. Na tukitatuliwa sisi tutapata kazi na sisi Wakikuyu si wezi.
The 30 billion shillings 500-kilometer road that leads from Nyeri through Murang'a to Limuru is said to be the road where the Mau Mau freedom fighters used while commuting to Nairobi.
Ni wizi, tungetaka withdraw. Sisi sio wizi, sisi ndio tulipigania vita ya Mau Mau 1952 na tupewe heshima. Sisi sio wezi. Na kama tumeiba kitu ya mtu atupeleke kotini.
The residents now want the contractor to hire the youth from the area, considering the high rate of unemployment in the area instead of hiring youth from other counties.
Na sasa shida yenye tuko nayo, tunaona wengi ambao wanakuja na contractors wanatoka katika sehemu za project zingine tofauti. Na tunajua katika sheria kuna local benefits zenye ambao wanafanya kazi kwenye project iko, kuna certain percentage ambayo inafaa kuwa benefit kwa wale locals ambao wako huko.
They say the move will be in honor of the freedom fighters.
From Murang'a now to From Murang'a to Thika, the visually impaired persons from Thika took to the streets protesting over discrimination during the disbursement of money meant to cushion the vulnerable from the adverse effects of the surging pandemic. The protesters walked to the offices of the Ministry of Labour, Culture, Gender and Social Services demanding an explanation for the said ministry as to why they are being discriminated.
The visually impaired in Thika town are a worried lot, as the money disbursed to cushion the most vulnerable Kenyans during the COVID-19 pandemic has not reached them so far. They took to the streets demanding answers as to where the monies they were promised are.
Tunataka kujua kwa sababu wao wanasema ya kwamba ati blind hawaku qualify. Qualification ni nini? Na ni nini inatendeka ndio watu wawe qualify? Kwa sababu tunajua pesa ya disable ni ya disable. Awe kiwete, bubu, blind, wote ni disable.
Serikali yetufikirie sababu tunasikia sisi zi kama watu. Sisi ni kama mokorino, sio mtu. Huyu ni kama mosigari, sio mtu. Na sisi ni mutumumu, sio mtu. Sasa sisi ni tuko wapi?
Wakati wa COVID ni wakati mgumu sana. Unaenda kwa mtu anakuambia pesa ziko kwa simu, saa ingine hata mtu aoni hata hana simu.
Ya kwanza uwezi tembea peke yako, lazima ushikwe mkono. Na unasikia hii COVID inasema keep distance. That means uwezi keep distance unless uwe kwako. Juu kipapasa hii kiti utakalisha mtoto wako hapa na wewe ukae mbali na yeye.
They say the area chief directed them to apply for the relief funds, but unfortunately none of them have received a dime. Filled with anger, they claim those benefiting with the funds are the abled.
Tunangependa sana kujua kutoka kwa wale ambao waliondoa fomu zao na wakazitupilia mbali, walitumia kriteria gani kujua maskini wa walemavu wale wanahitaji kusapotiwa. Shida ya walemavu ni mingi, sababu kwanza hao naona hapa nyuma yangu wengi wanaendanga kutafuta kazi huko kwa street, pesa kwa street.
Na kama kwa kweli lazima niende nikizunguka ndio nipate pesa ya kupatia mtoto, na ila hali wewe unataka kunipatia pesa unanitumia na simu, nitumiwe hizi za serikali ndiposa nitulie.
Sisi kama walemavu, tena sisi kama wasioona, tunaomba serikali itupatie pesa na itupatie chakula na itujali na itupende. Juu sisi ni viumbe. Tafadhali please.
The visually impaired, led by Jacinta Simbua, say despite their age qualifying to access pesa kwa wazee, most of them have never received a single shilling.
Tulikuja tukajaza form, na hizo form tulikuja kutangaziwa na area chiefs na watu wa nyumba 10, na tukazijaza na tukalete hapa kwa social office, na wakati wa wale wengine walikuwa wanapokea hizo pesa, sisi tukasikia sisi hakuna mmoja ambaye asiona alipata hiyo pesa.
They pleaded with the relevant government departments to intervene and save them from the discrimination they are facing so that they can receive funding like other persons living with disabilities. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Kaindo Stefano.
Let's do business. Tourism Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala has issued a clarification on the ban of alcohol sale announced by President Uhuru Kenyatta last month as part of the country's COVID-19 containment measures. This comes as hotels in the North Coast region of Kenya having been reopened with the resumption of international flights.
Now says hotels can only sell alcohol drinks to clients in their private rooms and not in a public space. The tourism CS made the clarification in a letter to Mr. Mike Mashando, Chief Executive Officer of Kenya Association of Hotel Keepers and Caterers, who had sought the ministry's advice on the matter. With the resumption of flights from selected tourist markets, the association chairperson Ms. Maureen Obunga told members of the press that about 40% of the hotels in the region had started receiving guests, although most of them were open for domestic tourism, as international tourists were yet to start streaming in.
Now we are wondering what will happen with the guests who are staying in-house, because it is so difficult for us to close at 7, which means the guests are going to eat at 6 o'clock. Another thing that we need clarification on is about sale of alcohol. What happens with sale of alcohol in the hotels? Are we able to sell the alcohol in the rooms or in the bars? We need a clarification on that.
A survey at the South Coast indicates that many hotels had reopened, although some proprietors were still putting final touches on their premises in readiness for a full-blown tourist inflow.
The public health have to come and check that you are compliant. You have to make sure that the restaurant has the 1.5 meter separation with each other with the tables. You have to put the dispensers for the sanitizing the hands. You have to get the places for washing the hands.
Ms. Obunga said all the hotels had complied with the Ministry of Health guidelines and that they were all operating under all prescribed safety measures. General Manager Alexander, at one of the resorts in Malindi, said that occupancy stood at about 60% and expressed his delight that the resort had reopened on a positive note.
I mean, there's been some very positive news, of course, from His Excellency about having about the soft loans for hotels and having access to be able to have refurbishment loans and development loans and help for our staff. I think that's the major thing that we are looking at.
Ni kufuata zile mikakati za kanuni za kiafya zilizowekwa ili tuweze kurudisha hali ya kawaida, watu warudi makazini, vijana watoke kwenye maskani warudi katika kazi zao.
Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Dolly Murigi.
Now, more than 500 public schools and farmers in areas prone to erosion in Nakuru County have received free seedlings of Croton megalocarpus worth 11 million shillings from an international organization that seeks to conserve the environment and improve livelihoods. Have a look.
Huge swathes of forest land were cleared in Molo, parts of Kuresoi and Subukia sub-counties, leading to soil degradation. Croton megalocarpus is a drought-resistant tree that can survive in harsh climatic conditions and is a good windbreaker, hence its popularity on farm boundaries. An environmental conservation lobby in Nakuru County has distributed over 120,000 Croton seedlings to more than 40 villages spread out across the 11 sub-counties to reclaim farmlands with steep slopes, huge gullies and unfertile soils. One of the beneficiaries, who is also a teacher from an institution in Nakuru, Mrs. Mary Otori, said her institution had planted 300 Croton seedlings.
When trees were cut down, these led to
degradation of the soil, the fertility of the soil. So we can still restore the fertility of the soil by planting more trees. And where do you get these trees from? Because you look at the production is very low. So if we can get more donations, we shall really appreciate and we shall improve on the entire of Molo area. Even the water catchment is going to improve.
When planted in a single lines along a contour, croton is very effective in soil and moisture conservation.
As a program, it will boost that presidential directive of green environment for every schools and everywhere. And it's so encouraging even to give other sectors, not only on schools.
Secondary school principal Mrs. Nisiaye Mosikonte said there was an urgent need to bring back and amplify the tree planting culture in homes, schools and other public institutions.
Once they grow, they'll provide seeds that can be used for energy.
Apart from controlling soil erosion, the drought-resistant tree barks, seeds, roots and leaves are traditionally used to treat stomach ailments, malaria, wound clotting and pneumonia.
Tuko na miti ya kienyeji, tuko na avocado, tuko na zile za machungwa.
We have now given out seedlings to over 500 schools.
The lobby suggests that national and county governments create incentives for climate-smart interventions, such as setting aside funds and special grants for environmental conservation and restoration. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Kaindo Stefano.
Welcome to Ebru TV Sports. Harambee Starlets attacking midfielder Cynthia Shilwatso has joined Spanish Division 1 side Logrono FC on a 3-year contract deal. The 23-year-old started her football journey at Ibinzo Girls before joining the 3-time Women Premier League champions Vihiga Queens. Her brilliant performance in the Kenya Women Premier League eventually forced her way into the national team, Harambee Starlets. The goal poacher was identified by scouts during last year's Sekafa Women's Challenge, where Kenya downed hosts Tanzania 2-0 to clinch the title. Well, thank you so much for keeping me company until this tail end of this bulletin on this 5th day of August 2020. And that is on behalf of everyone who helped put this together. Keep safe. My name is Munene.